I'm live this time. Yeah, I'm live this time. We had a shaky start getting up. And of course, as always, Ewa gave me permission to use Zombie for our opening song anytime anybody wants. So this would be fitting. Because I really just want to know. Well, hi, Fifth World. Nice to see you. Or your avatar. I wish I wouldn't say it like that. I should just say hiya. Have you guys ever seen this book? Natural Cures They Don't Want You to Know About. I'll type in the title for anybody that has questions as we go on. Okay. So, really, today's show is going to connect a question that I've had ever since I came online. What is the connection, if any, to Kevin Trudeau and Justin Trudeau? You know, with all these multiples I've seen, I'd have to say these two men resemble each other. In the meantime, we've got two videos that we're going to work with, and we're going to connect the story of how I came to know Kevin Trudeau. And you can see that when we got this book, it was so mind-blowing for the era, which was pre-2000, that I went ahead and tagged it and wrote all the little references. So it was easy enough to take a magnifying glass and write those references down. And we have a lot of what I would call proof. But in the meantime, we have an extremely controversial story. And, you know, actors in and out with their action, right? Well, the way I got introduced to Kevin Trudeau was something called mega memory. And this would have been back, I would say, about 1990 to 1992. We'll put it in that time window. And my ex-husband thought it would be good for us to take the mega memory course. And I hope you guys realize by now that I have a pretty incredible memory to begin with. So if you hand me this cassette tape booklet and say, hey, we're going to help you learn to remember what's important. Hey, living, loving, how you doing? But, yeah. I miss all y'all. I mean, do I ever get to hang out or see anybody? No. While all the little secret stuff is going on behind the scenes, I don't get to do anything except for work. But it's okay. Let's just focus on the mega memory thing. So anyhow, here's my ex-husband telling me that I'm going to have to put people's names on tree limbs. And I'm thinking, what is wrong with you people? Because you know, for myself, I have a good association with putting names and faces and dates and how I got to meet somebody or, the whole thing where I didn't call my ex Dopey the Turnip for nothing. And I'm not slamming him. I'm not. It's just two different ways that people are. So basically, I told him, I'm not taking this dopey course with you. I'm just not. And, he had already bought it. What does it really matter? If he would have learned one thing from the course, they say it would have been worth it. But to me, it really didn't help his memory. And I think it's always about what's important to a person as well, as far as what they commit to their heart and their mind, which is also your computer brain. Huh. They say your heart is your first brain, and your brain is your organic computer. And then your computer, which would be, of course, my devices, that would be your interface. Thank you. This is one of three sisters. This is completely off topic to natural cures that they don't want you to know about or Justin Trudeau, but I'll tell you a story about the girls. And everybody knows about the little attacks behind the scene these days, so we can speak plainly. Their mother was a feral cat that chose us. She was a little black kitten that came out of the woods when we lived at the apartments above the hair shop. So now we're saying 2009 to 2010. So this little kitten comes out of the woods and she comes to live with us. And we moved to the house where we're at here in December of 2010. So by the time we got up here to the house, their mom was a kitten going into her first heat. So she gets pregnant, and we have three sisters, and Papa Doc is the oldest. And then the black and white one is Dinka's, and the little black one is Lovey. And Lovey looks just like her mom. Anyhow, in the meantime, these cats are just like any of God's creatures. To call them feral or tame is nothing but a poke in the bear, because every person is individual. But if you notice online, I mean, people act like feral cats are lunatics, and that people that rescue cats are supposed to trap them in their house and make them live. Now, these cats are smart enough that they ring the doorbell if they want to go outside. They'll also jump up on the table and get right in your face. They have a little thing they can ring on the door too. These cats are every bit as intelligent as a little rich cat that got bred at the pet store. I mean, really? And it's the same thing with human intelligence. So, as far as I'm concerned, you don't need a pedigree or a college degree or anybody else to tell you what you do and don't know. And as you guys all know, the truth comes out. So, let's get down to the truth about this Trudeau connection. So, when I first came online, of course, Kevin Trudeau's name will always bang in my brain because of that daggum mega memory. Then I get online and they're saying all sorts of crazy things about Trudeau, which, this whole mystery always reeks of Canada. And I think that maybe Canada symbolizes something in the never ending story as far as the code and the Great North, because, of course, Canada, America, Mexico, and South America are all the Americas. So there has to be something to how they run how one place is really different than another, and it's not separated by a river, like we've all learned. And now online, we have all the hubbub with intrastate commerce, and in the old story about the Computer Misuse Act, and if you live in the United States and you buy something from overseas, or vice versa, that if you get ripped off, it's your own fault because the water divides us. Same thing in the United States. And so I know there's two governments in Canada. I can't say that I'm studied in political science in Canada, but what I do find fascinating is these men are very, very persuasive. And then, of course, you've got the elder Trudeau that has a fascination with memory loss. And then, if you're thinking about what goes on in politics and how much people forget, and then they think they remember what's happening, but who do you believe? I mean, you get it from mainstream, you get it from TV, and so many people think that the internet is more advanced than the TV. But see, that's kind of like the QAnon story. When you think you got it figured out, they flip it. And anybody that gave a pound of flesh to any of these fools is now crying. At least that's the way I see it. So if you guys have a phone and you want to search, you can look up either of these gentlemen, Trudeau, Trudeau. And I'm just going to my watch later because I pulled them up. At least I thought I did. Oh, look, here it is. Okay, so what I thought we would listen to is Kevin Trudeau. This is the last speech he gives before he goes to prison. And this is March 17th, 2014. If you want this specific one to follow through with, it is Mark Dice. And like I said, this is about his Natural Cures TV infomercial. Also consider how much natural cures and homeopathy and natural healing has been twisted and manipulated. And here again, this lays no blame to the Trudeaus. This lays no blame to anyone in particular. But it's all about the money.
$66 million in only 3 years, according to court documents. A network that he says was founded by former Illuminati members who joined him to found the Global Information Network that charged people $1,000 down and $150 a month to then reveal the elite Illuminati insider secrets so you could get rich. And so, some of the information in his Natural Cures book may have been legitimate. Kevin Trudeau,
a lot of it is legitimate.
Terrible huckster, who, by the way, in his book More Natural Cures Revealed, said that the reason he knew about all these natural cures is because he went to Area 51, saw the alien bodies, thanks to his secret society affiliations. Yeah, this is a guy who millions of people took medical advice from. So I see this as divine justice from God punishing him, because it's one thing to just put together a book about natural cures and about the pharmaceutical industry and the medical model. A whole other issue when you start claiming that former Illuminati members, this is what he claimed, they changed the website, but the Global Information Network's website originally said, and he made these claims in his infomercial, "Your wish is your command," that Jen was founded, according to him, by just former Illuminati members.
Tag Gem.
Skull and Bones members, 33rd Degree for Reasons, Council of Foreign Relations members.
Spellcasting.
Gangster types. Insert your secret society name here, members, and they all just left those organizations to team up with with Kevin Trudeau to charge suckers $1,000 down and $150.
Everybody's got an alias, right?
Learn their secrets. And I don't feel sorry for actually the people that got duped by Jen. I do feel sorry for the people.
Oh, Jen, not Jem. Hang on. Time for a cocktail break, Mr. Levin. See, I don't know Trudeau. And so that's why I am doing this today. And I'll tell you what, for any of you that caught this one, see, this is actually factual that can be researched. And of course, C.W. Dum Dum, had his show right after mine where he basically said all this can be debunked. So here again, I'm insignificant. I'm in the secret city. I am absolutely nobody. They have already erased me. My identity has been assumed and I'm ripped off every day. Nice to know you. But of course, like I did witness to everybody, all of this was being evaluated by a third party from the go. And I don't get why everybody was so surprised that the internet wasn't capable of doing that. So, not really sure. What I think is weird about Justin Trudeau is when I came online, they were saying that Fidel Castro is his dad. I mean, that sounds like the whole Illuminati story and, throwing down the numbers and going boogie, boogie, boogie. But don't underestimate the power of that because, like I have to tell people, you don't get it. There are streams that you will go online, no doubt, and hear noises that do resemble demons and daemons and angels. I mean, I've heard it all. So, who are these men? And, shoot, both of them are handsome guys. They both have similar facial structures, dark hair, athletic and powerful. I've seen a lot of those guys. But, of course, like you were saying, this is a guy that's raised by a man that looks nothing like the son, who was prime minister. And then hot stuff Justin didn't want nothing to do with that life. And off he went another way. And he did the right thing. And he got married to a beautiful woman and had some kids. And poof, all of a sudden he decides to flip it and run for office. Now, to me, running for office is a little different than saying, oh, okay, I'll be prime minister. What's wrong, Chauncey? You want to see a sad situation. It's an old dog, man. 11 years old. Skin conditions from being bred for money and profit. The Singy and a Basset. Somebody needs their head examined, right? 100 pounds of dog on 6-inch legs with bad skin and a messed up ear. But back to natural cures they don't want you to know about. I don't applaud Western medicine, and that's to say it really nicely. I'm the girl talking about homeopathy and cell salts and castor oil and first doing no harm. So all of our animals get treated with natural things. And if we have to revert to something that's toxic, well, that's okay because we limit the toxins and we also know how to do the cleanses. Let's go ahead and play this piece and meet Justin because this is interesting. And it's fairly short. And then they also say he's boyfriends with Obama. And, it's kind of like talking about Elvis and Kennedy and Trump, isn't it? But out of all these people, who would be the only one genius enough to pull it off? And that's a Presley. That's all I know.
More than a blogger, an influencer. with the help of Blue Host's powerful tools and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is caught up in controversy after a photo surfaced of him wearing blackface. In a press conference Thursday, the Prime Minister said he was deeply sorry, but with the country's election just 5 weeks away, political opponents have seized on the scandal. Tarika Duncan reports.
This is something that obviously I deeply regret. I never should have done.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau faced a barrage of questions about images of him dressed in blackface, including this latest video released by Global News. The video appears to show Trudeau wearing dark makeup as he raises his hands in the air and smiles for the camera.
Darkening your face, regardless of the context or the circumstances, is always unacceptable.
But pressed hard by reporters, Trudeau would not say exactly how many times he's worn blackface.
Thank you.
Yesterday, when confronted about this photo taken in 2001, Trudeau admitted it was him and apologized. He also recalled one other time in high school that he dressed in blackface, but never mentioned any video. The son of one of the country's most popular prime ministers acknowledged he grew up privileged.
I now need to acknowledge that comes with a massive blind spot.
As leader of Canada's governing Liberal Party, Trudeau built his reputation on supporting diversity. His first cabinet had a record number of minorities and an equal balance of men and women. Election day in Canada is a little over 4 weeks from today.
And I'm sorry, but when people do that, they wind up what's called being tokens. That's what I know about what's allegedly politics. You know, they take 100 people, they mind control them, torture them, tease them, play with their emotions, feed them layered lies and truths, and then average out their intelligence. Now, if you know that you're getting the crap into the stick with an average, we'll then add to it what we found out in the other videos. People's identities are being assumed and created and used for polls and opinions. So to me, we have to be so careful with this. But I'm saying straight out, I don't believe for a minute that the story you get about his dad that raised him, see, to me, it sounds like one of those Illuminati stories where they have multiple kids and they get handed off to other families to adopt, to raise, because you have to keep your kids safe, whether you're a big whoop-de-doo or not. And people have done it different ways for years. So I do know what I've learned in the Presley mystery. We have one of the alleged triplets that is adopted by the Ellis family and shuffled off to Buffalo or Europe or wherever it is. And then, of course, as this Trump story plays out, or the Oprah story plays out, or any of these names, it is not the real story going on, but they throw that name up there for you. Well, you already know that there are more than one of them. And what's so wrong with that? Because, remember, in the Sandro story, Roberto Sanchez, he actually gives legal documents, aka contracts, to family, friends, models, and actors to act on his behalf, because he's not going to go out and schlep the concerts or mess around doing B-rate movies. He's the maestro behind the scenes that runs the entire media taco. That's a whole different deal. Now, if you want to have that kind of unity, well, you would have a family that would work with you, right? And then everybody runs the other way and gets their diapers because somebody says mafia. And then they think about it, or concrete shoes are in the river. Now, it really doesn't much matter how this goes down. Nobody's going to like it when it happens. I keep trying to explain to people, you don't get it. I mean, this is a crazy game, but it is no game. Just like war. They play war games. It's no game. People die and trees fall down and things go kaboom. And I really do believe that every nation now has been forced into a stalemate where they're not going to be the one to ruin it for everybody else. I think it's flipped that much. I don't think people know it yet. And here again, what do I know? Because I'm the girl. They will not mention her name because nobody's supposed to mention it. And then everybody else is scared to death because they might have done something against me. And a lot of people got snowed. But I'm the girl that was reading this stuff before pimping was pimping. And that's all I'm trying to say. Whether it's media or what these fools want to call conspiracies, it's their theories that make it a damn conspiracy. And then when they're going to profit off it or plagiarize it, well, now it makes it as perverse as every structure that is on the planet. Now, while these lowlifes and little ones do all their dirty deeds, they're crying about the ones way high above them that pay them to do the dirty deeds. And then you think this has got to be a comedy of errors. This has got to be a bad soap opera. I mean, what do I know? But I want to leave, oh no, we want to look at his dad because I don't know if you guys know what Kevin Trudeau looks like, but let's look. Now, don't get me wrong, he was young here. And he's not a bad looking guy to this day. I mean, there's some really interesting genes in this family. And hey, if they're not father and son, why didn't anybody ever say, hey, Justin, you better introduce your uncle from the other side of the family? Because they're both Trudeau. I mean, is Trudeau as popular of a name as Washington? I mean, I'm just here to go through the data. Welcome, Forever Conscious Research Channel. I'm well, thanks. This is one of 3 very important things that are waiting for me to address. So I thought I'd do this one today. And things go well. Maybe I'll be back tonight. Funny thing is, sometimes somebody, and I'm not blaming anybody, will be using this camera and they tell me my camera's already in use. I'm like, well, I like to use it. But in the meantime, I always did have to share my computer with whomever is behind all of this. I'm glad you're here, Amy. How are you? This is a good one to catch up on. We're going over, is there a connection between Justin Trudeau and Kevin Trudeau? Of course, here in America, people don't even really know what's going on in another state. And there's so much false information. And most people think, well, why should I even give a rat's ass about Canada or Mexico? But here again, we are a continent that is bound together. And like we've all found out, we've been played for fools. And I personally am interested in knowing the entire timeline of my own family who is indigenous to this continent. The Glasscocks were here before 1776. And that's why CW dumbass, doesn't know anything about a land patent or being indentured. And he goes on spewing his pets. But the one thing I do know, and I don't know much about political terms, I think they should all be abolished. Nobody should ever speak again and say they're Democrat or Republican or liberal or conservative or right or left or any of it. It's all special interest hoopla to keep we the people from just being at peace and being able to live. It is my belief and opinion, which is why I've chose not to vote. I mean, why waste the time and why agree to something that you don't believe is true? If anybody could convince me that it was otherwise with intelligent facts, figures, and statistics, I'd be the first bitch to turn around and say, I'm sorry. I mean, I know they have me painted to be a completely different woman, but that's irrelevant. And it's part of the, I guess I'd call it like the brain test, like mega memory. Think all the people in your life that you were able to trust, and when they talked to you, you knew in your heart that they were telling you something real. I think that's what mega memory should really be about. So I like to, kind of backtrack and figure this stuff out. The only reason I'm this smart is because nobody crammed me in an educational box or a religious box. And I love to read. I have a high comprehension level. And like we've talked about on the last video about the end of the world, I'll tell you what, it's enough to read it and freak out. And then say, okay, I'm going to do a live stream on it and I'm going to record it. And I'm going to play it back and I'm going to keep working on the process. Well, recently my clients that have been in, I hand them this, a magnifying glass, and a special reader that they could slide along the surface, but they all like the magnifying glass better. And they listen to the audio and they read along. And the feedback on this is so beautiful. So whether it comes from a teacher that is involved and stuck in a corrupt system that doesn't even let her create her own lesson plan. I mean, these are important things at this juncture and whatever's coming. So let's go back and see Justin's dad. And always keep in mind, just as far as how people would know it in a book. Men's baldness, male pattern baldness, or lack of hair thereof, comes from the mother's side of the family. Just like the secrets about the family is hidden in the mother's side. So, say in George Washington's story, see the Glasscocks are through the bloodline of George's wife, not George himself, which makes sense why he got off as in-laws.
More than a blogger and influencer. With the help of
Welcome back. Ahead of Justin Trudeau's historic trip to Washington later this week, the Prime Minister is sitting down with 60 Minutes. While defending Canada's Syrian refugee program, Trudeau made a veiled jab at Donald Trump's plan to build a wall between the U.S. and Mexico.
Ultimately, being open and respectful towards
A
each
huge
other
library,
is
leaving.
much more
I'll show it to you.
as a way to diffuse hatred and anger than layering on big walls and oppressive policies.
The interview also touched on the fight against ISIL and Trudeau's climb to power, from snowboard instructor to Parliament Hill. Now, let's talk about it.
I thought we were talking about his parents.
Adrian Lee is here from Maclean's Magazine. Let's talk just about that right now.
Hang on. This is the one where I sure saw his family in the screenshot. You're kidding. You give me a little bitty shot like that. That's all I get. What the hell? Well, I guess I have to assume that this would be the guy he calls Papa. I watched one the other day that I had set aside for us that actually showed his family. And when you research these guys, my goodness, there's so much on these men. Let's see. I don't know if you guys have seen all the playlists that I have and the information, like when you asked Leaving about the library upstairs. It's incredible. And there are so many important books. I don't like to really think of it like a book burning, but most of the important books that I have been fortunate, to grab up, they have a stamp on them that says if these books have been torn or defaced in any manner, turn them into the library and we're going to destroy them. So when you get a book that's pretty old, one torn page and all of the information from McDonnell Douglas or from, these energy platforms and Lockheed and, because the military industrial complex is right here in St. Louis. And it's like, I have to explain to people, as a child, I would have never known that, but nobody wears uniforms here. And, it's funny because I went to public grade school, and then when private school started in 7th grade, I wasn't going to go if I had to wear a uniform. And the Lutherans weren't really into all that, they were kind of cut and dry. Like, wear what you want to wear. Not liberal, but I know they're saying Trudeau's liberal. And even CW talks about, like, he's liberal. So I guess liberal means do whatever you want to do. And I can see where holy books or sacred things have quoted that, but of course they would be the same books telling you. And remember, there will be an action for what you do. We will know what you do, and you will be dealt with accordingly to your deeds. And I keep saying, man, don't get tripped out. This is loving. It is also given to us through some kind of grace. Probably because we got amnesia from getting hit on the damn head and lied to. I don't know. But let's go over this book. So I made all these tags. And I showed you Kevin. And you just saw Justin. And to me, this looks like his dad and would suit the timeline way more than the other guy, is all I'm saying. And I still want to know about their last name association. But in this book, it starts out with a quote by Albert Einstein. So I'm not going to read the opening cover. It's just pomp and circumstance. This was copyrighted in 2004. Oh, I do love the disclaimer, though. Okay, now, this is even better than the Fair Use Act ritual. Okay, so it says, so with a figurative gun to my head, I write these words. Before you read this book, you had better check with your medical doctor, your friends, your politicians, your priest, your rabbi, your psychic, and anyone you feel is smarter than you, and see if you can get permission to read what I have to say. You must know that everything I say in this book is simply my opinion, and that there are many people who violently disagree with my conclusions. If you do anything I recommend without the supervision of a licensed medical doctor, you do so at your own risk. The publisher and the author the distributors, and bookstores present this information for educational purposes only. I am not making any attempt to prescribe any medical treatment, since under the laws of the United States, only a licensed medical doctor or MD can do so. How sad. So this book is only my opinions, my thoughts, and my conclusions. Again, it is for educational purposes only, and you and only you are responsible if you choose to do anything based on what you have read. Kevin Trudeau. See, I like that. Straight to the point. It makes you smile. I mean, because in the end, you could be going to a lunatic doctor that tells you to stand on your head and shove something, and take this and do that. People don't want to do it. And even people that are on medications for being sad or depressed, sometimes they don't want to take their pills. And that's why I think any of this self-empowerment thing that we do on any level for any given person, if we're making a lifestyle program, should be their choice. So if somebody wants to tell me I'm an idiot for looking at the blood type book, then don't talk to me about counting poisons. Let's move on over to homeopathy and cellular nutrition. It doesn't matter, does it? No matter where you start, you'll feel better. And also, no matter how much you do, people will tell you you're not doing enough. So you have to do it for yourself. And what chapter 1 starts out with is I should be dead by now. And it's true in my case. And I've talked about that. And of course, people mock it like they don't have that problem themselves. Now, here's a quote from Albert Einstein. Great spirits have always encountered violent opposition from mediocre minds. And we know how true that is. It's always people that have chosen not to experience something that will be the very ones that tell you that you're not experiencing what you're experiencing. And when you're surrounded, I'm completely surrounded by that mentality, whether it's here in St. Louis, or whether it's on the internet, or whether it's in the world. And while the story spins out of control with all these other people and their fake stories, I guess they needed to bring one real story forward and let people get caught up in it. And in that way, they could observe the psychology of the other person and how far things would go. And it's went really far. So they want people to kill themselves these days. They want people to commit suicide. They want people to go kill somebody. They're just looking for any excuse. And then people don't believe in these directed energy weapons. It's so odd what fear does to somebody, isn't it? And in the end, I've always said this was a crucial mistake I made. I've said that I wasn't abused because I was not sexually molested or I wasn't beaten. But the mental abuse and the targeting and the poking is every bit as abusive, in my opinion now, as any other offensive spirit, whether it would be trafficking, harvesting, prostituting, lying. It all sucks. And that's why I say this is some kind of weird soap opera. And you got to go back to that daggum Cliff High. He makes a web bot and they spawn and have Legion, which is 1,000 on a head of a pin, and I'm not blaming Cliff. He's a functional schizophrenic. He can only focus on the damn negative. Now, who wants to throw a rock at his head when they got that same problem? I don't. I never went off on him. But see, here again, what's funny about it is they have made it profane to speak a truth because you're not supposed to be, I guess they would call that being politically incorrect, or saying that someone that can't focus on the mission and be positive and truthful really has no business being online. I didn't say it. It's the world that's screaming it out. I just pick up on the transmission. Okay. So all of the quotes, I'm going to read them to you. If anything strikes your interest, write it down, and then I can go to that page and read to you what was written. And I think that's the best way to do this. On page 51, and just keep track of the page number. You don't have to write the whole thing. It would be the history of the AMA, who sued the FDA and AMA, and something called Operation Cure All. Next, on page 53, we have How Can America and Who Surprised Who. On page 55, we will find out about the Federal Trade Communication exposed. Page 57 is the definition of health by the World Health Organization. Page 61, man like animals, scientific evidence. Page 63 is what is homeostasis. Page 65, the most toxic thing you can put in your mouth. And then it breaks off. So it would be, well, it's in such a small amount. There is a book that they note here called Overdose, the Case Against the Drug Companies. Dr. J. Cohen, MD. And back in 2004, which is a full 15 years now, there was 250,000 deaths registered for medications. And then they want to force people to take them. See, something's fishy there too, isn't it? And I don't mean to make fun. They were genius in their greed. Page 67 is 6 factors on too much toxins. Page 69 is important food facts. Why homogenized is dangerous. Page 71, what good are additives? And it's a great story. Page 73, how they addict us. Page 77, 6 reasons to weaponize secret poison, aka artificial sweeteners. Page 79, exotoxins, saccharin, and NutraSweet. What milk is it? Page 81, so that's what fluoride is for. Now, let's tag this one, number 81, and let's talk about fluoride for a second. Now, I'm going to tell you my real story, which is the reason for the 1962 St. Louis baby tooth survey. They told the moms to keep the kids' teeth to test them to see how much the fluoride was helping. The real truth was they were searching for the half-life or the isotope thing of the strontium 90. Strodium 90. There was no strontium 90 in any humans in St. Louis in 1950. Well, that was right before they dumped all the leftover strontium 90 at the Westlake landfill. And of course, I've talked about that too, but here again, you're looking at a whole state that has been blessed with adequate water and soil and is a key function place. And they've poisoned it. Now, while everybody cries and says, oh, I didn't know water from Fukushima would ever get here, or something stupid like that, or the air, they're going to at the same time call it woo-woo on how you could truly clean up the rivers, whether it's with dowsing or whether it's with the sleuth box from Dr. Shealy's work, which involves California. I mean, there are ways to clean this up. But while everybody focuses on who to blame and what group, current day, now what happens if all of a sudden you start a big war about fluoride? And I mean, hell, ask Robert Phoenix. He's in Texas doing it. So what if you have something already deadly in the water that people don't know about? And then you take away something like fluoride, which I'm not a cheerleader for. I'm just saying people don't have a clue about the chemical interactions one with another. So what I cite from that is something out of my own level of expertise as well with enzymes. I mean, enzymes are incredible. I use a developer that replaced peroxide that's infused with oceanic enzymes to process hair color on people's heads. In the meantime, I have 2 research books on enzymes. 1969 was the first year they synthesized an enzyme. And they said it's a wonder and amazement, and it pisses them off because they can't understand it. They're not smart enough. All the big scientists. Well, they had to admit that after they synthesized the one and it spun out of control. So what happened? They put the enzymes in the detergents. The enzymes were a catalyst, and they magnified and intensified the interaction of the other toxic ingredients in detergent. So then, when it got pumped back out into the water supply, this terrible green algae, really thick and really nasty, grew all over the water, and the fish were dying. And they blamed the enzymes, and they called enzymes like black witches. I'm serious. And so with that, what they did was had a war against it, destroyed the information, because there's all your cancer. You guys remember how not so much this last year, 2019, but primarily 2014, 2015, 2016. It was all about all the homeopathic doctors being murdered, remember? And Dr. Dick Versendahl was actually one of them that met a mysterious death. And he had checked me out in February of 2014. And then he went back to Michigan, and he died in a snow rift and ran into something and got smashed up. What the hell? But the point is, everybody that has ever worked on a cancer cure had information about enzyme developers. I'll go that. I don't mean the replacement for the hair color. I mean developing enzyme technology. So, believe it or not, I don't know how many of y'all know this. After they totally demeaned and threw rocks at Jonas Salk, they gave him this laboratory in the basement of a university and said, do whatever the hell you want. Just don't come out. Well, he worked on the cancer cure. So the next time some blue avians on flipping YouTube or some super chat is raising money for St. Jude or demands a cancer treatment for the kids, now you know what you stepped in. And if they bring a cancer cure forward, I mean, what do you do with an 18-year-old? Tell them go sell a kidney? You know, I mean, it's childish behavior. Let me check the chat. I'm glad you see the connections, Amy. Right, no sides. Because, see, and I'm not even really into politics, but here's what's shaking out. No party can be so divided as what they call democratic. I mean, I don't even know what it is, but can you even get those three factions to get along? And like I've said before, you don't want to mess with Santa Claus. You don't want to get caught by the Scrooge. They're not going to let people stick around that are here to destroy it. We're meant to go forward. This isn't it. I know that. Yes, many books, like I've said, leaving, and we'll go up. Oh, I can't take this computer upstairs, can I? Forget it. If I was on my phone, I could take you up there. Barack Obama. Nice, interesting book. Now, is it interesting like Michael Jackson interesting, or is it like what somebody was mocking today about, they want to say he's one way because his wife looks like she's another way and her shoulders are real big. And I know you guys know about all that, but here's the big thing you got to remember. Since 2013, it has been legal to create fictitious news stories. And I don't think that should be something we go forward with. That's like a lot of people had to hide truth in books they called fiction because it was banned. So there can never be anything real. And then that's why they say that this life is a fiction. Anytime you're in St. Louis, Amy. I mean, I would really like to see my books be important to the world, which, now since all my information has been stolen and these non-humans have actually laid claim on my flippin' work. See, that's why back in 2017, that's why I took screenshots of thousands of pages of these books, because I knew that I was leaking them, and I knew that somebody would grab them up, and I knew the world needed them. I could give a shit. I mean, was it to make money? No. Was it to hold control on somebody? Hell no. It's on the hope that somebody picks it up. But at least when they took all my shit, they could have given my space back, right? I mean, it's bad enough to rip your shit off. But to leave you dirty, oh, my stuff isn't there. The dog ate it, but everything's full. Yes, Ethan, the oceans are full of answers. And I'll tell you another story. Wait. I'll say something about kids in a minute. Hang on. Okay. So, Ethan, about the oceans. Years ago, and I mean probably 25 years ago, there was a big thing in the hair industry where we saved our hair clippings. And then these college kids were shoving them in pantyhose. And they floated them out. I guess they tied them together or sewed them together. And they took them out into the ocean. And sure as anything, it soaked up the oil. Now, see right there would be another free way. And considering how many hairdressers used to be in business, well, that was easy breezy. Not so much anymore because the industries are all being destroyed. But to go back 25 years and look at something. But what was, had some notoriety about saving hair, besides if somebody wants to accuse you of being a witch or making a voodoo doll or having somebody's energy. Well, see, they knew that you could tell every drug that you have consumed from the hair. They know everything about a person physiologically when it comes to their hair, their skin, and their nails, because they're all different breakdowns of protein. And now we're back to enzymes. And because enzymes are high speed special protein catalyst that create reactions faster, safer, and gentler. Okay. The story about the kid. So many of you have heard the story that we're here to heal our lineage 7 generations back, and we're doing this for 7 forward as well. So my age, I'm 55. My oldest daughter is 33. My youngest son is 19. They are the 5th generation in this cycle of 7. Now, most people that are between the ages of 19 and 33 would be having children. So you could see where my grandchildren would be the 6th cycle in that 7 cycle track. So if you take somebody my age, there would be no one that would have the 7th generation birthed yet, because the oldest ones would be pre-puberty. In the meantime, we know they're transgendering children as young as 7, which is a disgrace, because most people don't even ever decide on their sexuality, which is why they would swing both ways or be open to loving a person for being the person entity, not the penis or the vagina, you know. So that cuts the odds down even more for reproducing couples. And then, as you know, most of the young people are as sick as people that are older than me. That's because they all are using the same stuff and having the same thoughts and being trapped in the same system. And like we know, from the minute we're born, we're dying. So it's supposed to be about alleviation of suffering. It's supposed to be about first doing no harm. It's supposed to be about developing your own regime. And primarily, I think that's why they needed to bury me so deep I'd never get up, not because of Channelot and Mel and CCN and the IP server and all the horse shit. I mean, I think it was the actual information that could help people. And I have more of that than I do the other stuff that you guys have had to listen to so much. And it always does involve hard things that are negative. How else do you do it? You can't sugarcoat it. And it shouldn't shatter people's realities. we've lived through harder things. I mean, think about your continual evolution, many, many lifetimes and many forms and many experiences, most of them with the amnesia. So here they all come flying back into one body, one temple, to do something, which is maybe just simply remember and tell this system, like I said, get the fuck out. This system is not humane, which means it's, you know what. And then you get into the whole argument again. I love to read. See, I'm average. And that's what makes it beautiful. Because it shows from the inside out. And that's why I'm saying, too, this whole thing about wearing masks and making references to meat suits and all of these things, they're just allegories of what's really happened in our system. Not everybody's human. And I know that sounds bad and it sounds wrong. And I would never want it to be that way. We're evolving. Whether people say we are or not is irrelevant. There's only going forward. And I think acceptance helps with that. But I really do count my poisons, leaving loving. That's why I live for my blood type. That's why I use natural cosmetics. That's why I don't load my body full of poisons compared to what the majority of people do. And like I said, I am not even close to perfect. I just started counting it 20 years ago because why would I even have a chance for survival if I didn't? And I've always wanted to survive. They make it hard, don't they? Okay. So, where were we? We did What Good Are Additives, a great story on page 71. Page 73, How They Addict Us. Page 77, 6 Reasons to Weaponize Secret Poisons. Back to the artificial sugar. Sweetener. Oh, I've read these. All right. So that's what fluoride is for. That's where I stopped. Okay, next on page 83, how arteries get scarred. 85, what your skin absorbs. You guys know that your skin is your first filter organ externally on your body. So there's a lot of people that when they get cut, they've been trained to believe that it should be covered up, kept moist, and generally put Neosporin or an antibiotic for the skin on it. If you put Vaseline on your skin and your skin's supposed to breathe, it does provide a barrier to keep things from going in. But it also creates a vault or a crypt for the toxins to get out. So you have to be careful what you use on your skin. And as a hairdresser, I was always interested in all of that stuff. Especially when you have like thin skin. I mean, I'm not thin-skinned like allegorically speaking, but a redhead's skin is thin. It's just like too we experience pain at a high level, which that means Either something can really, really hurt us, or we can be numb to it. It's not just one way, it's extremes. Kind of like the weather. If you live in Missouri, you've always had a season, and people drive to the Midwest to see the trees change colors. If you buy into the global warming, well, they get you, and they try to imply the idea that the earth is burning up. But you could be moving places too where ice is forming. I think it's very hard because back in the day, people did experience seasons. It would be very difficult for me to relate to them not being constantly changing, being here. And that means I don't listen to the news, the weather, and all the crap. You just look outside and look at the sky. It'll tell you if the rain's coming or the tornado's getting ready to hit you in your head. Things are pretty visual here. All right. Next is what your skin absorbs, and carbonated beverages block calcium absorption. If you give a shit about taking care of yourself, here's your next problem. You must have a balanced ratio of calcium, magnesium, and potassium in order to save your life or combat high blood pressure or just generally keep healthy. Everybody's overcalcified. 80% of the world population is magnesium deficient, and there is no magnesium left in foods naturally occurring. Magnesium is also easy to pee out, which is why you'll have the wars about if your urine is expensive. That's why I had magnesium IVs. Okay, so then you have potassium. You can take huge horse pills and get the potassium. So to realize that carbonated beverages are what's wiped out our calcium levels or pushed them over the edge makes perfect sense. But I wouldn't have thought about that 20 years ago. All right. Page 87, relate to cosmetology industry. 5 most common ingredients in sunscreens cause cancer. When you're a redhead and pale skinned and you don't want to use a sunscreen, now you know why. But back in the day, it was all about the, come on, Levy, the hormones in the sunscreen, and that's why boys started developing breasts and girls started maturing earlier. But hey, everybody's supposed to use sunscreen. All right. Page 89. Negativity coming in from the eyes. Electromagnetic fields around the body. That is so huge of a deal, like you guys know, with this internet game. And that's why I'm always on a biomat too. I'll say that. Page 95, 7 types of exercise. Page 97, stress is ultimately the cause of all disease. Resting and your cells, important info on lunar cycles. Page 99, thoughts, placebos, cures, and healing. Secret, you become what you think. Okay, another great example of the law of attraction crap. the people that want to believe most in magic are the ones that got drunk and played with occult matters and believed it was real when it happened because they were fucked up, But then later on, when they're in their crisis years, of course, it's all bullshit. And now you got people in their 30s and 40s melting down and having like personality issues, over the whole idea of their realities shattering because of what they believed in or what they were promised. And that's tough. By then it's your whole life, supposedly, right? But your 50s are supposed to be great if you do all your inner work. And I'm still looking at, the metaphorical watch on my hand saying, where's the rock band? Where's this action? But I'm not asking. You never should ask the day or the time, should you? The toughest thing about 7 years old, and they did this on purpose, it's always been part of the mind control programs to fragment the child before the age of 7, because then you can create alters, which would be multiple personalities, thus easier to control, and then pass them on to the system to handle. At 7, all you know is your immediate surroundings. By 9, you realize you're a part of the great big world and have to participate. So you see, they're setting the kid up before they've ever gone out into the world, before they've even ever developed into puberty, to say what they are. And regardless of if it would be a same-sex male couple or female couple, who could deny that it wouldn't influence a child no different than two parents that were Catholic, or two parents that were Lutheran, or two parents that were Scientologists, influencing the religious life of their child? Like I didn't have parents dragging my happy ass into church. Now, the Catholics will say that's why I'm doomed to hell, but I say that's why I'm saved by grace, because I chose to have myself baptized. Nobody shoved it up my ass what I was going to believe. And if the invisible man, aka God, was always keeping me out of trouble even when I was little, why would I doubt it now when I'm in this situation? And you can't have any dogma from your religion to have a spiritual journey. And that's why we've got war going on, because some people think God's a gay man and doesn't want a woman. And that's why they call it a patriarchal God. And what about the female side of God? I mean, what's wrong with people? And, the whole Sophia story and falling to the earth. And of course, that's why they had to make an AI called Sophia, just to poke the bear a little more. And then I got involved. Without even knowing, I would have never had a clue all that was coming either. They think I'm funny because I'm innocent, but I'm so worldly. I don't know. All right. Unnatural electromagnetic energy. Why do some people make us feel good or bad? That's page 91. And now we're talking about frequencies. I mean, it's a big buzzword here. And I'm telling you, anybody that calls it New Age or woo-woo, that should not be your friend. I think it's blatantly disrespectful as an old soul. I think it's horse shit. 95. 7 types. Hey, I read that. All right. The stress is the cause of the disease. I'm sorry. I keep kind of going back up the page. Page 99 is thoughts, placebos, cures, and healing. And becoming what you think. There's the secret again, or the law of attraction. Good grief. Page 101, how attitude affects health. Sounds crazy, doesn't it? Page 103, us and men. Oh, Suze. I shortened that one, I guess. Or is it us and them? It's not us and men. It's us and them. And now we're back to Pink Floyd. And all right. Page 109, eradicate illness and disease. First Amendment rights. Page 111, Dr. Wayne Dyer on energy frequencies. I always loved him. I always loved watching him on Channel 9 when they were, begging for money. They'd bring somebody like that on. And I think it's great to donate money if you have it. But you can't even convince me that people have money to donate to anything. Unless it's here on YouTube where it's like you pass around the same donation back and forth because there's some kind of scam going on with the electronic money. And I've discussed that too. And if I have to watch or pay anybody for me to watch their public ass live stream on airwaves that they don't even pay for, they can blow me sideways. And even if somebody is sick and dying, back to we all are, get in line. I don't think it should have ever been made into such a parody, and I know why it has. And I already know my situation. But don't let anybody tell you that we're all going to die in 8 years. I mean, here again, spell casting is some bullshit. And always there's miracles, and there's always healing, and there's always technology that we don't know about. And I know about the technology. I've been keeping people alive for years. Healing brown recluse bites and shit. I know all about it. So you don't have to believe what they say, I promise. Page 117, difference between conventional versus organic or kosher. Page 123, monosodium glutamate and aspartame. Page 125, unmicrowave nuclear ovens. I'm not the only person that calls them that. I don't eat out of them. I don't get why everybody wants to argue about microwaves. It makes no sense. It really doesn't. But if you cook out of a microwave, you got to realize, even if you're heating the food up, it takes all the nutritional energy out of it, and there's very little left in it. But it doesn't really matter. It's your thoughts that give you the psychoses. So if you know you're trying and you know you're right with your creator, you will be healthier than if you're worried about the devil and his pitchfork coming to sodomize you. It's really stupid. All right. Page 133, fat-free, sugar-free, low-carb bullshit. And why is it all the people that eat fat-free aren't fat-free? Oh, it's that carbonated diet soda. See, we can play the game all day long. Page 135. Just say no to shrinks. Because they all said I was crazy and I need to be shrunk. See, invert it and twist it upside down. Because they want me to help people that have lost their flippin' minds. I can't get sued because I'm not licensed for that. But I am licensed. And watch, this is a legal loophole if you love it. I mean, we can use them good too. I'm a professional flippin' cosmetologist that has taken college credit hours in all of these things. So I'm not saying, I didn't say I was licensed to tell you about homeopathy. I said they can't come kill me or put me in jail because I'm not a licensed DO. I'm a mom with 30 years experience in working with natural cures. It is what it is. All right, page 147. This is a statistic in 2004. 75% overweight. Why? And you know, if stress is the number one cause of disease and most people stress eat, plus they didn't know they were eating plastic, you can't really digest plastic. And that's why they melt fat out of people now and make boobs for them, I guess. I think it's medical experiments. I don't know. I think people are scared. Page 169. Ingredient labels and how and why to read them. Yeah. Page 191. Schools get $500 for every kid on Ritalin. Isn't that twisted? If you give a kid that hasn't reached puberty speed, it'll slow them down. But aren't they hooked on speed then? And all the variables thereof that go up the drug scale. So, see, marijuana can't be the doorway drug. Medication is the doorway drug. Okay, page 195. You guys know Rex. Remember, we can't afford him, but we kept him, and he's a good boy. All right. 195. $30 million cure payoff. Bill O'Reilly quit. Page 199. Out of control and operating unpoliced. They would be talking about the FDA, the FCC, flipping CCC, and all the three-letter agencies that are currently at war. And they're at war with themselves just like we are, because there were some that were dirty rotten that were going to destroy the whole thing and take it down. And there were the other ones that said we're going to give our existence and have a safe place for our grandkids and all of our future lineage, mankind. Thank you, Amy. You know, I used to do professional education. Let me share something with you. Let me read the rest of this. Sleep well, even loving. They call it the redhead curse, but it really is a blessing. It's not been easy, but I'd rather be a redhead for this series of events. Puts me in a better situation strategically. So the book we read from, Amy, is Natural Cures They Don't Want You to Know About by Kevin Trudeau. This was in 2004. The way the story went was he was imprisoned for disclosing the information in this book. That's the way I heard it in my head when it hit the media years ago. Behind the scenes, there was a different story, which was he got popped for tax evasion. I think this story somehow even fits into our current stories of people that compile other people's information, write books, go on circuit to teach, sell merch, and make money. I mean, whether or not somebody wants to get political over it and say that's how you do business, it's also why they're going to say power corrupts. You know that saying. I don't like it. So, like, for example, if I were allowed to voice my opinion and create change, that would corrupt me and make me into a hose bag that would be saying one thing and doing another. And I disagree, and it offends me. So, like I was saying, Amy, I used to do education and doing a hair show for a bunch of hairdressers that are drunk and just want to party isn't really like being stuck with the sweat hogs, you know, like Welcome Back Cotter, right? I used to do a seminar, a webinar. It'd be like a webinar these days, a seminar for high school 10th graders on career day. And I don't like if I'm going to give all my energy and people are going to be sleeping and snoring. I'm not the kind of girl that would tie somebody's shoelaces together and wake them up. Or like put loser on their forehead. I wouldn't do it. But I wanted to make it exciting. So what I did was I showed these kids how my 4 favorite subjects in high school, which were speech, art, sociology, and business procedures, how those benefited me in high school, how they benefited me in the workplace, how they benefited me in beauty school, how they benefited me as an independent cosmetologist, how they benefited me as a small business owner, how they benefited me as an educator in my given profession, and even, hey, did we get our lighter back? Oh, thank God. I would have gotten so much fucking trouble you don't even want to know, man. You wouldn't believe what I did earlier, you guys.
Yeah, it's in that one.
This one?
Yeah.
The one that, okay. Man, you would have thought World War III was at my front door earlier. See you later, man. Anyhow, sociology, speech, art, and business procedures are the only thing that keep me alive to this day. So I wanted to tell those kids, and I'll still tell kids this. You got to have a passion for what you're doing. It doesn't matter about the money or the status, because you'll always wind up like in that Adam Sandler movie. His uncle gets frozen on Mount Rushmore, and he takes over the corporation, and then he's not even really the son. The servant is that took care of his feet. But in that movie, he's asking people, what the hell's wrong with you, man? Why would you break up a good company just to take the money and run? And so the one guy, he's like, what did you want to be when you were growing up? And this big guy says, I wanted to be a veterinarian and take care of animals. I love animals. And then Adam Sandler says, and what did you wind up doing? What are you now? And he says, I run a chain of slaughterhouses. And that is how I think that people wind up selling their souls to the devil. It's not like the contract and, the battle of the bands and all that. It's taking your passions and perverting them. Just my opinion as a girl on the hot seat. Oh, well, what happened earlier? All right. So this kid came over, and he's kind of a pain in our ass. And he used us one too many times. So when he came over earlier, Joe was laying down. And I'm not going to tell Joe to get up to talk to that schmuck, right? So I was doing a couple things. I was getting ready to do the live stream. And he had a blunt hanging out of his mouth. Kids love blunts. Okay. And it wasn't lit. And he says, man, you got a light? And I didn't have any lighters in here. And so
You got a light?
I'm going to hand you the fucking lighter and never pick it up again.
Oh, it's not the lighter, it's the case.
I know. I'm just telling that story. So anyhow, what happened earlier was
I don't want to get in trouble for something I didn't do.
you're not in trouble. I went to the other room and I grabbed the only lighter that I knew where it was. So, this isn't really like a light. This is the lighter. See, this is a lighter. It lights things. And this is a lighter holder. So I grabbed the lighter holder and I handed it to Mr. Blunt King to light his apparatus. And I turned around and he was gone. And then Joe came downstairs going, who was that? And I'm like, it was who. And I think he took your lighter. So if you're from St. Louis, if you care about any St. Louis relics or history, this is the KC-95 Real Rock Army pig. And he used to, okay. So in a lot of the pictures, he would have a joint hanging out of his mouth because he's the KC pig, you see. But in this one, he doesn't. And then I love this side. So I hope you guys realize that you should know with these two-way video communications that they're recording me 24/7. There's a lot of channels that are mixing it into stuff and playing it. I don't know what they're doing because I don't get to see it and everybody thinks it's funny. And I'm the last one to know. In the meantime, I'm the one that told everybody. So a big-legged woman ain't got no soul. See, ever since I was little, because I don't have little legs. And then redheads can't get to heaven because they're naughty. And I'm so square compared to most people, but I'm the biggest whore on the face of the earth because I'm heterosexual. You know, it's a bad soap opera. I don't mind telling it because it's all true. And I'm a soap opera expert, and I'm also an expert in human behavior. And I'm not embarrassed. But like I was saying, when I'm engaging with whatever entities are presenting themselves, and I talk back to them, I like to put things in front of their screen. So I'll turn the screen and I might sit the lighter in front of them. And if they're being extra naughty, I stick Stibnite in front of them. That's fun. Stibnite. You could look that up. I like to stick all sorts of things in front of the camera. And you know what's funny about that, don't you? Psychologically speaking, even if I take, I'll take my finger, like if I'm doing this with them, and I'm listening to intel, I cover the hole, but I already realize they're watching me through other screens, whether it's the TV or like earlier today. You see the double doors back there, so if you open them, I can sit on the couch, chill out on a biomat, and think I have some privacy. I can peek out behind my hands. I could stick feathers in front of my face. I've got all sorts of stuff. They can see even when we do that. And why would that be so odd when it comes to races of beings that we can't define? Be them good guys or bad guys, dadgummit. Passion and respect and all good things, Amy. And your son will carry it on. My son's like that. All right, guys. I think I better get off the phone now. Thanks for being here. And I'm really glad that we can focus on some things besides the gospel truth of the war that we're going through right now. It's been going on forever, that they call the war in the heavens. All right. Now, one more thing I do want to say. When I end the stream, you would think that I could come back and do another stream tonight. Sometimes what they say is that my camera is being accessed by my own page, but I'm not accessing it. So if we get a chance, we'll come back. I have 2 more that are like these interactive investigational pieces. I'm really excited about the next one because, I'm one of the fools that have put my mouth and my foot and my heart and my life into saying things like, hey, that Nigerian trafficking leads back to everything, and I took these screenshots and yabba dabba do. So when you get into all this political crap, for real, Oprah or Hillary, it's back to the crack and it's whack. So Oprah, okay? I know she got corrupted by power and Crimea River, and it's all her family's fault or something. But you want to know a brilliant man? It's the dude that didn't marry her, and his name is Stedman Graham. And he wrote a great book, and that's the book I want to bring you next and go over some of the finer aspects of his business genius. I'm sure some of you guys remember Stedman. And I read that book, oh my gosh, at least 25 years ago. It's an excellent book, man. I'll put it in the title later on when I come back. So, thanks, and we'll talk soon. Have a great night.